Bhagavata-sevayā. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayet nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu Nityaṁ bhāgavata-sevayā bhagavati uttamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. Jai Śrī Caitanya-caritāmṛta Nityaṁ Śrī Advaita-gadādhara Śrīvāsadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear worshipful devotees, thank you so much for joining. We are starting a few minutes early because we have a 8:15 another meeting for Ramnami festival. So we have 30 minutes, so we will absorb ourselves in the Bhagavatam. Yesterday we were reading that how Kamsa apologized, was regretful of his mistake, and then finally he comes back to his place and he's contemplating about the words spoken by Yogamaya. That means the news that he would be killed very soon, or killed, the person who's going to kill is already born. So he's contemplating. So that's another demonic quality that, although he gave big philosophy, big class, but again, still contemplating upon the same. So Kamsa summoned his ministers, and informed them of all that had been spoken by Yogamaya. Basically, that conversation which had happened, he just shared with the ministers. Let's see what happens further. Akarnya bhartur gaditam tam uchu deva shatravaha devan prati kritam rasha daityanati ko vidaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhicharnaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai. After hearing their master's statements, the envious asuras, who were enemies of the demigods and were not very expert in their dealings, advised Kamsa as follows. Purport. There are two different types of men, the asuras and the suras. Dvau bhutau sarga lokesmin deva asura evacha Vishnu bhakta smrito deva asuras tad viparyayaha. Those who are devotees of Lord Vishnu, Krishna, are suras or devas, whereas those who are opposed to the devotees are called asuras. Devotees are expert in all transactions. Yasya asti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarve gunais tatra samasate suraha. Therefore, they are called kovida, which means expert. Asuras, however, although superficially showing expertise in passionate activities, are actually all fools. They are neither sober nor expert. Whatever they do is imperfect. Moghasha mogha karmanaha. According to this description of the asuras given in the Bhagavad Gita 9.12, whatever they do will ultimately be baffled. It was such persons who advised Kamsa because they were his chief friends and ministers. Hare Kṛṣṇa. So Kamsa discussed this situation with his ministers. Ministers, mantri, sumantra, they are supposed to give good counsel, good advice. But if the people whom we are seeking guidance, they are not devotees, very simply said here, right? They were those who are the enemies of Krishna and his devotees. are not expert, they will never be expert in their dealings. Mogha karmanaha. All their activities will ultimately end up in suffering or bewilderment. That means they will not be able to execute any great thing. Although externally, he's a non-devotee, maybe a big millionaire, he's a big shot. But ultimately, it will end up in bafflement. That's what. So therefore, we should also have ministers. I mean, everyone is a little bit king in their own way. So here, ministers means taking good counsel, or a counselor system, friend, well-wisher, a mature devotee whom we can seek counsel of at the time of unrest, at the time of difficulty, or even whenever we are bewildered, whenever we are confused in our life, like Arjuna took shelter of Krishna. But if the ministers are bad, if we take shelter of, if we open our heart to people, like how Manthara, right? Manthara, how Kekai opened her heart to Manthara, then she will get that kind of advice which will take away Lord Ram. And then similar, many stories. If we open up to wrong people, then seek wrong counsel, because they will speak based on their mind intelligence, which is devoid of Krishna. But a devotee will guide us how to balance things and ultimately make spiritual progress. That's the sum and substance of life. But Kamsa had bad ministers. Bad means not Krishna conscious and not very expert in the dealings. So let's see what they advised him. Doesn't look that they advised him good, as Prabhupada is sharing. If it was such persons who advised, that means, and ultimately they'll be baffled because of lack of Krishna consciousness. So let's see what was their advice to Kamsa. Yes, Mataji, on to read.
Yes, Dandat Pranam devotee, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Evam chettahi bhojendra puragrama vrajadishu anidarshana nidarshanscha hanishyamodya vaishishun. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. If this is so, O King of the Bhoja dynasty, beginning today, we shall kill all the children born in all the villages, towns, and pasturing grounds within the past 10 days or slightly more. Oh Krishna. Sound like, because this Ukraine war is so ghastly. It's bewildering that somebody can even give this kind of counsel. And they're not going to leave any ground peace. Like all the villages, all the towns, all the pasturing grounds. It's really sad. Back to you, Prabhu. Thank you. Prabhu, you're on mute. Shubila's going, Prabhu.
Yeah, Vipul Pro, can you read the next verse, please?
Sure, Prabhuji. Pranam, all goes to Srila Prabhupada. Text 32. Kim udiyamahi korishanti deva sharo virabho Nityaṁ udvigno manasho jya goshai dhan usastavo. Translation by His Divine Grace is Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The demigods always fear the sound of your bowstring. They are constantly in anxiety, afraid of fighting. Therefore, what can they do by the endeavors to harm you? So it looks like the council associates, they have no idea about the Supreme Lord. So they are thinking that God would be same category of demigods, and they know that demigods sometimes they can fight with them. The Kamsa, the Doshas can win with the demigods. So still they have some hope, but they don't know that it's a supreme person Godhead who is coming to kill and destroy these Osuras and Kamsa. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Anything ringing very similar situation in anyone's mind? I was thinking of Hiranyakashipu and his council of ministers. Pretty much very same things that his council of ministers said the same thing. Oh, what this little child can do. You have conquered all the big demigods and stuff. What can this child do? The same, the demigods always fear the sound of your bowstring. Who can harm you? Why are you afraid of fire? They are afraid of you. No one can do any harm to you, right? You are so great. You are so mighty. In the Ramayana, it is mentioned that even Ravana also had the ministers who just wanted to glorify him. So if we are surrounded by people who just glorify us, it's not a very healthy situation. Because a conditioned mind always wants that. Oh yes, you tell me how great I am. Yes, you are right. You only know my real truth. And if someone said anything even slightly which is not conducive or which is not palatable to us, right? And then suddenly we say, hey, how dare you say, for example, if someone says, anything which is genuinely good for our, self-improvement, a constructive feedback, right? Like Vibhishana gave the good counsel to Ravana that you have so many wives already, why you want to invite your death? But the same Vibhishana was kicked out by Ravana because Ravana couldn't always wanted to hear what he wanted to hear, right? And the person who was his real well-wisher, he considered him as enemy. So same with the mind. When the mind is controlled, it's the best friend. Uncontrolled mind is the worst enemy. So we have to be always have certain friends, devotees in life whom we can, seek guidance and whom we can genuinely appreciate even their constructive feedback. And we should be always be careful. If we receive glorification, we should always pass it on to Guru and Krishna. And if we receive constructive feedback, we should take that seriously. Maybe, yes, this person is my real well-wisher. I should work on the things he or she said that maybe I didn't speak properly. Maybe I was proud in my words. Maybe I expressed anger. Maybe I showed, whatever, so many areas of improvement I have in my own self. So one humble person is always living to correct oneself. His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu says this line, which I really like. I live to be corrected. I live to be corrected. But a proud person, right? Proud person always think that there's no room for me. There's no one better than me, right? Like Duryodhana. Duryodhana was told, find someone better than you. He searched everywhere, came empty-handed. Well, I went everywhere. There was no one better than me. Someone has this problem, that problem, and this problem. And Yudhishthira Maharaj was told, find someone who is not as good as you. And he came empty-handed. He said, everywhere I went, they had so many wonderful qualities. Someone was, so good in their work. Someone was so humble and this and that. A great person always sees good in others and tries to absorb that good in oneself. A person who has this a fly-like mentality will see bad in others and will absorb the bad in one's own self. So the point is that we should be very watchful of the association we keep and be very, very careful. Text 33. Anyone who didn't get a chance yesterday can read. Just going to read.
I can, Prabhu.
Yes, yes, please.
Asasyataste saravrateir hanyamana samantata jivi visava utsrijya palayana parayayu. Translation by His Divine Grace Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. While being pierced by your arrows, which you discharged on all sides, some of them who were injured by the multitude of arrows, but who deserved to live, fled the battlefield intent on escaping. I didn't get much of it, Prabhu. Please explain.
Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. So this verse has been spoken by the ministers who are basically glorifying, oh, Kamsa Maharaj, when you fight, when the enemies, your enemies, they are pierced by your arrows, which you have discharged on all sides. Basically, you're a great fighter, you're a great hero, you're a great warrior. So those who desired to live basically fled away. And fleeing away from the war is a great kind of shame on a warrior, right? Except if Krishna flies away, it's called Ranachor and becomes famous. But anyone else in the history never gets famous by fleeing away from the battle. So in short, it's kind of a coward act. Basically, they were proving that you are the hero and they were the coward, right? Because you are so mighty, you are so great, you are so powerful. Your arrows are so powerful, your strength is so powerful. So no one can stand in front of you, oh great Kamsa. Glorification. Because that's what he wanted to hear, right? That's what he wanted to hear. If someone would have said him, no, otherwise, like Ravana, like Vibhishana gave good advice, get out, my way or highway, not being open to good counsel, always wanting what the conditioned mind wants to hear, not a great sign for a spiritually advanced soul. So, spiritually advanced soul, look for even hints of suggestions or hints of improvement, even from mundane people. Like I'll share a Prabhupada story. Prabhupada was in Delhi and was distributing these pamphlets, these, paper, like just consider like a tiny paper and a little bit like a handout, kind of spiritual handout. Someone said, Baba, what are you doing? People will eat channa. Sometimes in India, it's used to eat some channa, some snack or something. I don't know if this is still going on, but they use paper or newspaper and things like that. Don't distribute this paper. The people will eat channa and they'll just throw in the trash. Print a booklet. It was not a devotee. It was not a high-profile person, but Prabhupada really, reflected upon that. Let me see. There is certainly some truth in that. There is certainly, and then he took that message as coming from Krishna, and he started printing books and magazines back to Godhead. So great souls are always hungry for continual improvement in their own self. But conditioned soul always want to hear from others how good they are. So the ministers are glorifying him and his bravery and whatnot. Any thoughts? Any more thoughts in this connection? Yes. Okay, next verse, 34. Who would like to read?
Prabhuji, Hare Kṛṣṇa. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Prabhuji.
Yeah, please read, Mataji.
34. Hare Kṛṣṇa, devotees. Kechit pranjalayo dina nyasta shasta divokasa mukta kacha sikha kechit vidya buddhasmas iti vadinaha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Defeated and bereft of all weapons, some of the demigods gave up fighting and praised you with folded hands, and some of them, appearing before you with loosened garments and hair, said, "O Lord, we are very much afraid of you." Here again, it is about the glorification of Kamsa by his ministers in the assembly. They're still boasting Kamsa for his past deeds and all. They are asuras, and therefore they are just boasting, they are just glorifying Kamsa. That's all, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. So reminding of the past. Oh, you won so many wars, even demigods were afraid of you, they were bowing down at you. Pretty much same as Hiranyakashipu's parties. His ministers, his council of ministers also told him the same thing, right? So if they would have been really intelligent, like Vibhishana, they would have given him good counsel. So Satyam Buryat, Priyam Buryat, Hitam Buryat. Anudvegakaram Vakyam Satyam Priyam Hitam Chayat. So are they speaking the truth? Certainly, maybe. Yeah, Kamsa was certainly powerful and all this may have happened. So that is truth. Priyam, certainly very pleasing to Kamsa, isn't it? Who does not want to hear his or her own glorification? Very clear. They're not saying, hey, you're full number one. Hey, you tried to kill. You did so much. The other truth was that he had already killed so many kids of Devaki and Vasudeva. The other truth is also he must have tortured so many people and killed innocent people also. But they are speaking the Priya. But is it hitam? Is it beneficial? Certainly not, right? Certainly not. So amongst the Satyam, Priyam, Hitam, the Hitam is the most important. It should be beneficial. The speech should be beneficial. Of course, whenever possible, we should try to make sure all three are true. But Hitam is the most important amongst the three, which is not applicable here. Because like king, like ministers, Jaisa Raja, Vaisa Mantri, so is the Praja too. 35. Would like to read this verse, 35? Yes, Lakshay, Prabhu, want to read?
Text 35. Natvam Vishmrita Shastra Stran Vilatan Baya Samvratan Hamsya Anya Sakta Vimuklan Bhagna Chapan Ayudhyata. Translation paper. When the demigods are bereft of their chariots, when they forget how to use weapons, when they are fearful or attached to something other than fighting, or when their bows are broken and they have thus lost the ability to fight, your majesty does not kill them. Purport. There are principles that govern even fighting. If an enemy has no chariot, it is unmindful of the fighting, or because of fear, or is unwilling to fight, he is not to be killed. Kamsa's ministers reminded Kamsa that despite his power, he was cognizant of the principles of fighting, and therefore he had excused the demigods because of their incapability, but the present emergency, the minister said, is not intended for such mercy or military etiquette. Now you should prepare to fight under any circumstances. Thus they advised Kamsa to give up the traditional etiquette in fighting and chastise the enemy at any cost. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. What did you learn here?
That like since there are rules, since there are like laws and rules in everything, like production of like materials, like that, even fighting has rules and regulations. So like if the like if Kamsa, that's why like Kamsa didn't like fully kill kill the demigod because of the laws, like the because of the fighting regulations. Hare Krishna.
So Kamsa was good. What do you say?
Like
He
it's like
followed the laws of war.
yeah, he followed the laws of war, but like overall, like what, like the reason of fighting wasn't like really the right thing to do.
Was not the right thing to do. Correct. Very nice. Good, good. Thank you, Lakshya Prabhu. Very sincere. Yes, even, sometimes dacoits, they will loot the bank. 4 people. That's it. They looted $100,000, just example. Okay, but now we will honestly distribute this money, 25, 25, 25. Right? The whole principle is dishonesty and looting, but now we'll be very honest. Right? So this is Kamsa, right? And therefore, some people, without lack of proper knowledge, even, glorify, hey, look at Duryodhana. He was such a, when Arjuna asked for 5 arrows, he gave it. When, some like Karna, oh, he was so charitable. And those isolated instances of their magnanimity or their generosity cannot cover the big mountain of anarthas or sinful activities, right? The whole principle is based on anarthas and sins, and isolated instances of piety or rules or moral codes or the rules of the war cannot cover it, right? So we have to see the scriptures. We have to see from the light of the scriptures, from the intelligence from the acharyas. Otherwise, there are books in India. Oh, how Karna was great and Arjuna was a bad guy, right? How demeaning the picture of Krishna, glorifying. So, in India, I remember when I was Laksha's age, we used to build Ravana, right? And bury Ravana and put crackers in it, and it was a fun and nice. Still, we didn't know a lot of shastric details at that time, but at least it was fun, and there was some culture behind it to kill the bad and to destroy the bad. One person came, he said, hey, we have started burning Rama. What nonsense, right? So but Ravana was a great Pandit, he was that. But what was he using his knowledge for? What is one's using? One could be very punctual, one could be very disciplined, but if the whole principle is anarthas, that does not make that person really a great person. Even people who are very, very, passionate They may be disciplined, very hardworking, very punctual about their time of work and business and ethics and stuff. But the whole principle is selfish sense enjoyment, right? So, but the Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that the real intent was the minister said, hey, you have been very kind and merciful, but now it's not a time for being merciful. Because generally it's not a good etiquette to kill someone with who is not equally armed. Now the child is certainly not equally armed compared to Kamsa's soldiers and the armies he had, right? So therefore, the ministers are reminding that in the past you let go the innocent or those who were not in a position to fight with you, but this is not the time to do so. So don't show any mercy, no mercy upon these kids. Anyone who has been born in the 10 days, in the past 10 days, because this incident happened just the next day. The next day, this whole conversation is happening. So Kamsa and all these parties, they're not fully aware that when this, where this child is, but he must not be born, months back. He must be born pretty recent. And Yogamaya also told that. So therefore, Kamsa is, and ministers are provoking him to do this act of killing the kids who were recently born. Any other thoughts anyone has? Okay, one more verse today. 36. Who has not yet got a chance and really wants to read? Vijaya, Mataji, want to read, please?
Yes, Prabhuji, I can read. Text 36. Kim Kshema Surei Vibhudehi Asayunga Vikarthaine Raha Jusha Kim Harina Sambhuna Va Vana Okasha Kim Indrena Alpa Viryena Brahmana Va Tapasyata. Translation. The demigods boast unceaselessly while away from the battlefield. Only where there is no fighting can they show their prowess. Therefore, from such demigods we have nothing to fear. As for Lord Vishnu, he is in seclusion in the core of the hearts of the yogis. As for Lord Shiva, he has gone to the forest. And as for Lord Brahma, he is always engaged in austerities and meditation. The other demigods headed by Indra are devoid of powers. Therefore, you have nothing to fear. Purport. Kamsa ministers told Kamsa that all the exalted demigods had fled in fear of him. One had gone to the forest, one to the core of the heart, and one to engage in tapasya. Thus you can be free from all fear of the demigods. They said, just prepare to fight. Hare Krishna, back to you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. As far as Lord Vishnu is seclusion in the core of the hearts, Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sadya Vishnu. Look at, they're also quite learned. Yogi Nam Hridi Yeshua. And he's busy in the heart of the yogis. Don't worry, he's there. And Lord Shiva, he's in the forest, Bam Bam Bole. He's not going to bother you. And Brahmaji, Tapaha, is busy doing tapasya. And Indra and all, you already kind of, defeated them. Who's going to win over you? Why are you worrying about? Take it easy, enjoy. There is nothing to fear. Isn't none. And in the mundane parlance in this world, also the lack the people who have no Krishna consciousness, what do they say? Hey, don't worry about life.
Hare
Now's the
Krishna.
time to focus on enjoyment, sense enjoyment, bhakti. Now's the time to grow in your career, grow in this. You have everything. Don't worry about bhakti and all, right? The outside material circle, they will only provoke us and promote us to in the material cycle, right? And bound us more and more in the material world. So we have to be very, very careful. And they will say, well, don't worry about God. Anyways, he's busy in the hearts of the yogis. Even if you have to worry about God, maybe at 65 years, maybe at 70 years, you can think about it. But now is the time to enjoy. Life does not come again, right? You will miss out. You are young, your 20s, 30s. It's the time to enjoy life. So this is the common Kamsa propaganda going on. Any quick comments before we wrap up for today?
So even we tend to say sometimes, oh, Krishna is in my heart, I will chant my rounds later. That's really Kamsa tendency, this minister tendency. Yeah, he knows that's so wrong. Just really disrespecting principles that time. Back to you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we'll pause here for today. We have another important meeting for the Ramnami services. So the Tampa devotees can stay over and others can take care of their necessary things. Thank you so much. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Śrī Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Gaura Bhaktavinda ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo. Thank you. Hari Bol. Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Hare Kṛṣṇa.